So, this story kicks off with an absolute tragedy. A teenage girl murdered in her own bed. But, and this is the crazy part, within just 48 hours, it completely spiraled into one of India's most baffling mysteries. It's a story where the first, most obvious answer just imploded, leaving nothing but chaos in its wake. Let's dig into how it all went so wrong so fast.
Pretty much everything that defines this entire mystery, it all happened in just 2 days. Think about that. It starts on May 16th with a victim and a suspect who seems like a sure thing. But by the very next day, that whole theory just falls apart. This timeline here, it really shows you those critical moments where the investigation completely went off the rails.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in Noida, India, in what should be a quiet, middle-class home. But on the morning of May 16, 2008, doctors Rajesh and Nupur Talwar woke up to something no parent should ever face. Their 14-year-old daughter, Arushi, had been murdered, right there, in her own bedroom.
So when the police show up, they walk into this incredibly shocking scene. But right away, they notice something else. Someone was missing. And that one absence, it would instantly shape their entire theory of the crime from the get-go.
Okay, so with one person missing, the police, well, they didn't have to look very far for a theory, right? They settled on a suspect almost immediately. They basically created this narrative that seemed, at first glance, painfully simple.
And that missing person, it was Hemraj Banjade. He was the family's 45-year-old domestic help, and he actually lived right there in the apartment. Now, for the police, this was an open and shut case. An employee disappearing from a murder scene, it could only point to one very obvious conclusion.
And just like that, the official story was locked in. The police declared Hemraj the killer. They went to the media and announced that he had murdered Arushi and was now on the run. The case seemed solved. Almost before it had even truly begun.
It all seemed so simple, didn't it? A clear victim, an obvious suspect, case closed. But the story was about to take a turn that absolutely no one saw coming. Because that simple answer, it wasn't just wrong. It was literally impossible.
So we move to May 17th. The hunt for this supposed fugitive suspect is in full swing. But back at the crime scene, another discovery was about to turn this entire investigation completely on its head.
For a full day, the police launched a nationwide manhunt. They were absolutely certain that finding Hemraj was the key. Find him, and they'd deliver justice for Arushi. That was the plan.
But their entire theory, the whole manhunt, it was all built on a completely flawed assumption.
They were out there searching for a fugitive who was never even on the run, because the very next day, Hemraj's body was found on the terrace of that exact same building. He wasn't the killer. He was the second victim.
So you can imagine the police theory just completely collapsed. What started as a single murder with a clear suspect had suddenly become a double homicide with no suspects at all. They were right back at square one.
Now, this shocking discovery didn't just restart the investigation. It exposed a whole series of catastrophic errors made in those first 48 hours. This case wasn't really about evidence anymore. It was about chaos. You see, the crime scene was never properly secured, so it was contaminated by dozens of people, visitors, media, you name it. On top of that, police were floating these baseless theories to the press, just damaging reputations left and right with unverified claims. It was truly a perfect storm of investigative failures.
And the result of all this? Well, the investigation is now widely considered one of the worst managed in India's recent history. We're not just talking about a few minor mistakes here. This was a textbook example of exactly how not to handle a crime scene.
And that right there is the central tragedy of this whole story. The errors made in those first 48 hours created this fog of confusion that honestly has never truly lifted. It just leaves us with this haunting question. If the very start of an investigation is completely lost, can the truth ever really be found?